7th, 2019. If we could look at the minutes. I just would like a clarification on the first page, the cafeteria manager position. Is that just kind of an update on that? She resigned and going to a different position?
What, let's make sure I have this on.
I have it on my.
You got yours, yeah. We were discussing another proposal, so we didn't fill that position yet because we've been rethinking the structure of the cafeteria position, and we just thought it wasn't fair to hire somebody when we weren't set quite yet on how our cafeteria food service was going to be structured for next year.
Okay.
So Tara's going to provide more information about that in her principal's report, and we have a meeting this morning about it, so we can pass on the information.
Oh, thank you. And the PTG annual pancake breakfast, how did that go? Did you make money?
We have PTG this year.
Okay.
Nice event.
Yeah, we made approximately $4,600.
Wonderful.
Yes, with the help of, we couldn't have done it without Omar Amin and the VFW. And we had the most parents helping that we've had and teachers helping that we've had. So in the kitchen was Omar, a parent volunteer, and VFW volunteers.
Oh.
And so it was amazing. It was good.
They came at 6 in the morning to help.
Yeah, it was really well organized.
It was great, and it was great to have it was dedicated to a VFW member as well, right? Who
Yes.
had passed away recently, and
We used to run their pancake breakfast.
right.
So we're thinking for next year we can advertise it as.
Oh, named it after him, that's
Yes.
nice.
And I want to say also, the PTG just went to the VFW recently, do you know about this? And presented them with a really beautiful painting that the students did with their thumbprints in the shape of a heart, and it was, I think a really nice touch to go, because the VFW does so much for our school. They really are the most supportive organization that I can think of for this school in the community, and in so many ways, by showing up at a breakfast, by giving money, by coming to renovation meetings or whatever it is. They're always involved in some way. So I thought it was a really nice gesture of the PTG to organize that, to take the time to go to a meeting and present that to them. So, thank you.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of January 3rd, 2019. Second? Yes. Any other discussion? So moved. The financial statement?
Terry did apologize, she had a sick child, so if we need the clarification, we can call her cell phone. Usually get in touch with her tonight.
On page 2, we've got substitutes for PD, which didn't look touched, but then there's substitutes up in the middle of the page that was. Is that just kind of very specific, or?
So some of that will get sorted out on the back end.
Okay.
When it goes through, depending on whatever it is, it hits that substitute line, and then we hopefully catch up with each other, and if it is PD.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if we had any, we haven't had too much that would hit under that anyway. Recently, our K-2 wing went to PD for a half day, the whole wing, which was really wonderful. And that PD substitute money came from a grant, so it's not won't reflect in there.
Yes, that's a radar grant that we're working together with North Adams and Adams Cheshire, and actually the lead for that professional development was from our school here, from Chris and George, and from Deb Roselli. on the zones of regulation to provide some training, not just for the teaching staff, but also for the support staff too, which is really needed, and a lot of good positive reports from that PD.
On the last page, page 5, the insurance program, I know I've probably asked this a million times, and it just doesn't sink in. They're almost used up as far as payment is concerned. Is that normal, or are we gonna go over?
Yeah, well, it's a one-time payment
Okay.
that's why it's so
Okay.
high with the percentage.
Thank you. Any other questions? Have a motion to approve the current financial statement for FY19.
Motion to approve the financial statement.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Yes? Yes. Okay, fiscal year 20 budget discussion, yay.
I know that Amy was asked to be on the agenda. Is that something? Do you want to start with any comments, Pam, or did you?
Sure. Well, I'm here on behalf of Clarksburg Teachers Association and the Massachusetts Teachers Association. Their Massachusetts Teachers Association has started a campaign around fully funding Chapter 70, and they needed a teacher. They need teachers to come to their school committees to ask the school committee to sign the resolution. And the hopes of the MTA is that all school committees will sign and send a resolution to the legislature to get Chapter 70 fully funded. The problem currently, as I understand it, is that there's requirements for the school to fund certain amounts of money, and the state is supposed to also fund some of that money, and they're not funding it. So what the resolution is actually asking them to do is give us the money that they owe us. And so I have a document that the MTA has put out. There's a website called Fund Our Future. There's extensive amount of information about it there, but our MTA field representative sent me this resolution that they're sending out to anyone that goes and makes this kind of request. And then they're asking you to send it to the legislature. And I have 4 addresses. House Speaker, Senate President, Senator Adams Hines, and Governor Charles Baker. So I'll let you read it. On that website, they have a formula for figuring out how much each school district is owed. Clarksburg is owed $41,250. Blair Mountain School is owed about $13,000. The city of North Adams is owed millions, as is the city of Pittsfield. Pittsfield has already adopted this. And on the website also, there's a list of school districts that have gone ahead and signed the resolution and sent it in. So I'm just here with that
So
request.
is this cumulatively owed, or is this just this year?
Every year.
Retro is what.
No, but I think they're trying, well, the last part of this says, therefore be it resolved that the school committee of Clarksburg Elementary urges the legislature to approve and fully fund a new foundation budget formula by May 1st, 2019. So we're looking for them to fund it in the future.
That's been the recommendation too, is to get in touch with your local senators and representatives, Representative Barrett and Senator Hines for us, I know, and the concern was when the governor's budget just came out, which is on the, a couple lines down here, is that while they were addressing some of the issues for the larger communities, they still weren't really addressing the rural communities. I know I was just talking before the meeting about there was a recent video I was going to send out to our schools from the Mohawk Trail Superintendent asking the state to adopt a formula similar to what Wisconsin did a few years back, but it was $400 per student, which would help our rural schools a lot. Because if you figure out the number of students in those schools, it wouldn't be a significant hit to the budget as opposed to some of the money they're giving to the urban areas. They're certainly needed too, but the challenge with the Chapter 70 is it's still, with some of the things that they're talking about, it's not going to help us as much as it should. So, it's hopeful that there will be some good discussion by the House and the Senate about improving that formula. I know there's the Mass Association of Superintendents is also sending out information as well to encourage the House and the Senate to look at that and to change that formula, because if we don't, it's going to really cause us challenges for our rural schools going forward. And I know there's a big line item in the governor's budget about a trust for regional schools. They're looking to regionalize, and it seems like that's a big push, and but it's still not really addressing the current problem, I don't think.
Well, I know that we are all looking for money for Clarksburg School, and I know all of education in Massachusetts is looking for it.
Right.
So I figured that the least we can do is ask, and the more asks,
Yeah,
the better.
yeah. The more we can advocate for our schools, it definitely has to come from all of us.
Yeah, I just want to recognize, I had an informal meeting with teachers last Friday. We had some coffee in the morning voluntarily. And I explained to them that it's a really tight budget season for all of our rural schools because of the way the funding formulas are set up right now. And particularly, we know that the town of Clarksburg is in a tight situation. And I think, and this is the response, I think immediately teachers were asking, what can we do? Getting in touch with MTA, trying to figure out how to advocate for the school, how to advocate for money for the school, for our children. And so I really want to recognize the teachers here who, again, this is beyond what they do during the day, are just trying to figure out ways to make sure our school gets what it needs. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I don't know if you want to talk about this or just sign this now, or? Oh, okay. We can do that as we're going on to the next. The Finance Committee recommendations regarding retirement insurance line item.
Right, I just wanted to put that on the agenda for our meeting tonight. Carrie Burnett and I attended the last Finance Committee meeting. In January, we were invited to come to discuss the preliminary budget for the school. One of the concerns was when I just first started last summer, I'd gone to a meeting in August, and so on the only other Finance Committee meeting I went to where it was mentioned that the town was looking to move a line item of $92,000, I'm sorry, into the school budget that was from the town budget, which was for retirement insurance, for retired school employees. So I just asked a question at that time. That's not really done at other towns in our district, our school union. And it doesn't seem to be common practice because nobody at the school works for the school, they work for the town of Clarksburg. So I don't understand the reason for wanting to move this, well, I understand the reason, but it doesn't seem to make sense to move it into the school budget because that would have a significant impact on our fiscal year 20 budget, would result in losing several positions, which we obviously don't want to do. So I think we consulted with our school attorney, Adam Dupre, about that for some guidance, and before we meet again in regards to this issue. We are in some budget discussion. We're definitely trying to work collaboratively with the town. We're meeting next week, Carrie and I, with Erica Olson and Donna Estes to discuss the budget and just look at the numbers and see what we can do, and we can move around to preserve everything that we have here, because I guess, like Tara just said, we have a great staff. They do a wonderful job of educating our students, but I don't think anybody that comes into this building thinks that we're overstaffed by any means. I mean, if there's several areas where we'd like to, you know, increase our services that are being offered to our students. So, but it's concerning when that is the first round of discussions for the budget that an item like that being moved into our budget would have a significant negative impact on our school budget for fiscal year 20. So we're going to plan to meet again in March. But that is certainly a concern. And it was referred to that it was discussed last year, but like I said, in August it was still presented to me as an item that was being looked at. And at this last meeting, it was made to sound as though it was already discussed and approved for this year, which I don't think is the case.
Is it even legal? I mean,
That's what we're asking Adam to look into for us. So we definitely need to get a little more information from Adam Dupre from a legal standpoint, and we plan to follow up on that before we meet again. And I think also the town has to look at the impact that'll have before they try to do something like that, whether it's, you know, if it is legal, it still wouldn't be, it would still have a serious negative impact on our school. So, and like I said, the town is the employee, so in my opinion, they should be the one paying the retirement insurance as the employer, so the school is not the employer. And that's, you know, under the school union, that's one of the ways it's set up for all of our towns in North Berkshire School Union. They're all their individual school district. Clarksburg, Florida, Rowe, Monroe, and Savoy are all their own individual school districts. So, you know, nobody works for North Berkshire School Union, nobody works for the town of, or the school of Clarksburg, they work for the town of Clarksburg. And that's the way, I think under that way it's set up, that's the way that should be paid out for that retirement line item. So I just want to give some focus on that because that's a significant, that'd be a significant loss to our budget if it was moved in.
agree.
So I guess I just wanted to bring it up. I just want to see if anybody had any recollection of that being brought to the school committee previously. But I've only been here since July 1st, obviously, so I didn't know if that was anything that anybody had any background information on that, if that's been discussed before, or anything that you may have to, if you recall anything about that being discussed last year.
I don't, but I'd like to, I'll probably go back through my notes to see.
Because I don't recall seeing, I looked at the minutes, I didn't see anything in there, but I didn't know, you know, obviously there's finance committee discussions and different meetings that are not part of the school committee, so I just wanted to, you know, check with all
I
of
think
you.
they may have asked to have it taken on school choice, and it was kind of a, well, if you don't, then this may happen. So we were kind of caught in a bind there, but I'm not quite sure.
I think I recall it being an idea that was floated last year, but I don't recall any vote to make that happen. I mean, I don't know in which end it would happen, who needs to vote to make something like that happen.
When I was reading a little bit on chapter 70, I noticed that there was a section in there where they were talking about how to account for what you're talking about, the retirees' insurance benefits, how to account for it in under chapter 70, whether it's included in a school's net spending or not. And so that makes me wonder if the Department of Education might have some experience or some information for you around how schools handle this or towns handle it.
Thank you.
Governor Baker's proposed budget.
We talked a little bit about that earlier, but it just was concerning because for all the talk about the changes that were coming, none of them seem to be impacting our the districts in our school union. So I know there's still a lot of discussion, as was mentioned earlier, between the when it goes to the House and the Senate for their approval and recommendations. And the one item that has come up is, I think, similar to what the teachers union is suggesting tonight about advocating for our borough schools to receive a change in that funding formula so that we can receive more equitable funding for our schools. Because, you know, the point that's being made in the presentation that was made by the Mohawk superintendent was that, you know, our fixed costs are continuing to increase, and the funding that we're receiving from the state and from the town, for that matter, is not keeping up with it. So, you know, how are we going to sustain our schools if they're not being supported by, well, starting with the state budget, first of all. So that formula really needs to be looked at. I would certainly hope that they'll get some consideration in that proposal about funding the rural schools at $400 per student, or some improvement over what we have now, because it certainly isn't sufficient to provide all the services for the needs of our students. So there's more discussion. This is a really important time to get that word out. So I think it's great that the teachers have started that in Clarksburg, and hopefully everybody will follow suit and advocate with their representatives. And Senator Hines has been a good champion for our schools, and so has Representative Barrett as well. So we do have two good, I think, leaders for us. We just have to stay in touch with them, let them know how we feel about that.
Mrs. Barnes?
Okay. I have, I have some pictures to go along with what I'm going to talk about. Just starting out with professional development. I know you've been on the edge of your seat wondering what's going on with RBT. And every month I tell you how the teachers go and collaborate together, work together, and become the reflective practitioners they are all together and keep honing their practice. So RBT is over. January 19th, or 9th, I mean, was the last day. But it's not totally over.
Do you want the screen down, or you want?
No, I think, so RBT is finished with our official presenter, Research for Better Teaching, but we're going to keep this alive in-house. Our instructional leadership team has a plan for the rest of our half days this year to be able to dig deeper into it in teacher groups, to be able to explore more of the resources that we started working on with this professional development, and also to sort of challenge ourselves to try out some of the things that we heard about, talked about, thought about all fall. So they came up with a great plan to divide up into small groups, to dig into chapters, to present to their peers, to challenge themselves to pick one or two things to try, and to report back out again. So that was all of their thinking and planning and facilitating that they're doing to be able to make professional growth continue with what we're doing. Sorry, so this slide is not about that, but I got your attention with it. The other thing that they did, I touched on briefly with the radar grant, was the zones of regulation professional development. And we did this primarily in the primary wing to start, but I hope it's something that we can develop throughout the school. It's another common language. You know, we all wanted to be on the same page with the Research for Better Teaching, professional development, and skillful teaching techniques, because it provides us with a common language to use when we're talking about good teaching. And that's really important. And I think the staff the feedback from staff is that it is nice when we can all use the same kinds of words when we're talking about what we're doing and what we need to do. And this is another opportunity like this. So with this radar grant, teachers went to learn about zones of regulation. So what are zones of regulation? Boy, I have two primary WIN teachers right here who did experience a professional development. I won't put them on the spot too much, but I'd like you to jump in and feel free to add, because you're more expert than I am in this area. These zones help children primarily have a language around how they're feeling, social, emotionally, and so they can identify if they're in a red zone, which is where they need to take a break because they're feeling these different emotions which you can't see there, but it might be aggressive or, you know, furious or angry or those different things. And then yellow is obviously you're not quite there yet, but you need to do some things like taking deep breaths or other strategies. So when we can educate students about how they're feeling and attach a name to that, and attach strategies for what to do when they get into these different zones. They're using that language, we're using that language. It helps when they're in conflict with themselves, with others. And this is a life skill. You know, it's beyond teaching what Massachusetts state curriculum frameworks ask us to do. This is the work of building, you know, really strong children. Who can handle their emotions, because if they can't handle and figure out and regulate their zones, they can't access the other
pieces of learning. So this is really important work that I'm proud that we started to do with this grant, and I'm looking forward to see what else we do with this moving forward. Do you have any feedback on how that went?
I just can say, I know that Kristen's been using it for a while, and we have seen the effects that it has on students. I want to know a lot more about it. I only have had that overview on that day, but it's certainly appealing, and I think it's going to work, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about it.
Yeah, we do. This is something it's not brand new to us. We, like Kathy said, we have been using this language. Our occupational therapist uses it with a lot of students who need it. And we do have little people who can tell you which zone they're in right now and what they need to do. So I think looking to expand that for more students is the way we're going. We also had a visit from Becky Hines, who is part of this grant, who came as a consultant to just kind of think about inclusion. She is an inclusion specialist in Florida, and she just did a walkthrough to kind of see what areas we might want to work on or think about or explore a little bit more. And I found her to be a great resource to just brainstorm ideas with. And there'll be a follow-up with her upcoming with this radar grant. I'm not sure when, but she also invited us all to Florida to come visit her school that she started, which is a fully inclusive school for students where they have at least 50% of students there have significant disabilities and are all fully included into the school in a way that there's no separation of services, there's no separation of anything. Everybody is all in one, their own classroom or with their peers. So it was really inspiring to hear from her experiences, and then to take that and put it up against the work we do here, and to really think about where are our places to grow. So looking forward to that.
Would that mean extra training for the teachers? We go all inclusive? I mean, we are inclusive, but
We are. Yeah.
Sometimes, you don't always get every scenario, but some teachers need to be maybe brought up to snuff or retrained, or anyone new coming in who's not used to that environment.
Yeah, I think there's lots of entry points into this, and we're all at different places. She's coming from a place of that's the only way she does it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a myriad of places in between to kind of think about where we get better at what we do and take every person wherever they are and kind of stretch us to keep on growing. And anybody who's new, we would. I don't think there's any formalized training planned yet. I think she's helping to strategically think about what's one or two things that we want to think about to make our school feel just a little bit more inclusive in some way. And we don't have a separate classroom for students with IEPs. We don't have any substantial separate programs in our school. So everybody is fully included into their classrooms, their typical peer classrooms, and we do a great job of meeting kids where they are. But we can always do better with all of that. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, events. We have Ski Club going on still. I just want to touch on the 8th graders are still doing the can exploration, and then they go to Drury right after the break, so they're doing a lot of high school exploring right now. I have some pictures of past events, but I put them at the end of my slideshow, so I'll end with those. They're nice pancake breakfast pictures. Any questions about events? Because I know we talked about the breakfast a little bit. There's another event. No, we don't do the break. Yes. Got that in there. So we are having a club here over the break. Jordan Rennell is organizing for parents if they want their child to come here and have a fun week of activities over winter break if they get a little cabin fever. She's here all week long, kindergarten through 4th grade,
We have a number of students who are already signed up, so that's an offering that's coming up. Thank you. And
Can you do just some of the days?
yes,
Is that on there?
here's a form. If you happen to have children here. Okay. PAC events. We had an event right here in this room on January 22nd where students were making Play-Doh and using Play-Doh to learn about early literacy skills or math skills or use their fine motor skills. And the point of this was to help parents know what they could do at home to develop these skills with their students, with their children, that would be fun and engaging and not feel like it was worksheets and learning and drills. And we had all the schools in the union participate in this at the event here. In February on the 26th, there's another PAC event in Florida School, and it is the theme is books. So there's all kinds of activities and food and fun open for all families in Clarksburg, families in all the other schools in the union to come out and engage in learning activities that they can do at home with students.
February 26th?
February 26th at Florida School. I think it's 5:30 to 6:30. I have a little blurb there about iReady. I just want to keep you abreast of, we bought this new diagnostic tool this year. I talked about it briefly in the beginning of the year. And this is just a snapshot of what one student's test scores can look like, or what teachers see. And I just want to explain that this tool is much better than the tool we had previously because it gives us a lot of information that we didn't have before. And this graph just shows you how a student grew from one diagnostic to the second. They grew 33 points. That green space is on grade level. So you can see how at first, at that bottom line in the bar, the student was not on grade level for ELA, and then was able to make that growth between the September and the January diagnostic test. So it's giving teachers and families and children lots of information to see their growth happen and to see where they grew. And they always give us a typical growth. If this was a typical year, they would expect the child to get to 575. If it was a stretch, like you're working super hard, you would expect them to get to that dotted line. And this student passed the stretch growth. And so when students see this, when teachers see this, they start tap dancing and everything, they get all excited. So it's a really useful tool for us to really know where students are and where they're going. I just wanted to share that and see if anybody had any questions about this.
So there's one for both English and math?
There is. Should have had a math example up for you. Okay. And I always like to talk about teaching and learning. I like to give you a little snapshot. Last time I talked about long division. Now I'm going to talk about writing for just a second. It's just fun when we get excited about some of the things we see in classrooms. This is fifth grade students' piece of work where they did a rough draft on the left side, and their peers gave them feedback using these prompts that are conversational skills actually, but are now connected to writing. And so each different student is a different post-it there, and had some questions. Can you tell me more about this part of your story or that part? And then the student went back to add that in and add some more. And it's really neat to watch students work together like this to develop these conversational skills and also to apply them to writing. And since Mrs. Babcock is here, this is one of her students' work. I asked her to bring cut and grows, which she just, it's an extension of this work of getting students to elaborate on their writing and expand their ideas and their thoughts. And I just wanted to share with you how students took their original pieces of writing and they actually cut and then grew their writing in between. And so they can see the expansion and the elaboration of, and this is after their peers gave them some feedback about, hey, what about this? Can you tell me more about what happens with this character? And I observed this week, and I just got excited and thought, wow, this is a really cool thing to show. I mean, it showed you this graph with a student who grew 33 points. And we look at data and we go, oh yeah, that's really exciting, but this is how it happens. And this is the really exciting work also that goes on behind the scenes all the time in everyone's classrooms. I'll just pass these around so you can look at them if you'd like.
So these are stories they make up?
Yeah.
They create themselves? Okay.
Yes. It's a realistic narrative, am I right?
Realistic
Fiction?
fiction stories based as a character that's based on themselves and troubles that they've had. So it lends itself to go in all kinds of directions because as they're talking about their character, they're talking about themselves. So for me, it's interesting because I'm collecting data about this person, right, as they talk about themselves as a character. But what's interesting is we talk about how the trouble could get solved in the story, and that like lends itself to talking about cougar anchors, and like so then you end up having this conversation with kids about what are all the different ways we could have solved this problem, and it is very interesting. It's also very fun to hear kids use those sentence starters, have them say something like, "I'd love to hear more about," and like I almost fall off my chair because it sounds so sophisticated. But they really enjoy it, and you know, time passes quickly, and then those Post-it notes they take back, right? All the questions their peers write in like a group of 6, they take them back, and then that gives them a place to work. And like when you're a writer, you don't know what you're missing, so it helps them go back and figure that out, and then be able to elaborate their essay. It's fun to watch.
So I always like to share a little piece of what's
Yes,
going on in
thank
classrooms with you as I'm trying to also be in classrooms more and soak this up and take it in and learn alongside the teachers about what's going on and what else we can do and how else can we elaborate ourselves, expand ourselves with our work. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Fun to see what's really going on. You know.
I know.
And this, you were talking about professional development. This is all kinds of different professional development I received. I did the SEI, Spanish English Immersion course this fall. We did the school-wide development with a skillful teacher. That's Lucy Clockin's stuff that I've read, but that's all personal research and figuring that out. And then a while ago we had Collins Writing, which is all about marking text and things like that. So because I've spent 2 years just focusing on English language arts, I've been able to kind of weave all this professional development together to come up with something that looks like that. Plus there's a technology piece because there's all kinds of typing that goes on after this is all done. And they really need to get ready for the MCAS, and they need long essays to score well. So it's just all coming together.
So our professional development line item in our budget is well used, and that's what she's saying.
It's all starting to come together for me for 20 years.
It's kind of nice to know that the is melding together, that you don't go, you know, you don't go to one, close the book, go to another, close the book, you know.
We're trying to make sure that doesn't happen that way, and we're working hard to keep it alive and keep it going. Okay. Just a couple of highlights about students. Not sure if I mentioned that at one of our last meetings, but Gabby Billets is our 8th grade ambassador, our Project 351 ambassador. I think I might have said that in the fall, but she went, Martin Luther King weekend is always the weekend when all of the ambassadors meet in Boston, and she's down in the bottom right in Boston, learning, collaborating, with all the other ambassadors from across the state. She's come back, and one of her projects, a mini project for her, has been to help support the Tudor family and coming up with a meal train here at school. And so she's also looking for other projects to take on as well, but she jumped right in there because Jacob Toole is one of her classmates, and that felt like a really meaningful project for her to be involved in. So that's what she's working on. I'll keep you updated on anything else that she comes up with. And segueing into Jacob Tulo, I just wanted to share with you all students and staff here have a bracelet that is designed by Jacob, and it has jetpack on it because his initials are J-E-T. And so I want to share a bracelet with all of you tonight. So you take one, pass it down. You can have a bracelet.
Got one, I think, at the breakfast.
You got one there? Okay, well, I can catch that, no. You could have an extra one.
Yes, I'll be watching. I don't have one, too. Thank you.
Yeah, so, there's a movie downstairs sponsored by the, 7th grade girls advisory tonight. It's a fundraiser for the family. The family's very okay with me publicly talking about, using their name. They want to be as transparent and a part of this community as they go through what they're going through. And so I feel like I can really talk about, the fact that Jacob has been to school a few times this January. He's had lots of trips to Boston. And every time we are able to see him, we enjoy the time spent. He was able to hand these out to students this week, so that was really special. And we're just doing our best to try to support the family, support Jacob, and that's my update on students. Here are my pictures too. I just have a couple pictures. I really like pictures of students. This is the 8th grade girls advisory. They're repainting our girls' bathroom. Their goal is to paint the stall walls and then put inspirational quotes, paint them on the walls of the bathroom. Work in progress, they're still working on that, but that's them, I think, sanding, the least favorite task, sanding the stall walls. After school clubs are in full swing. We've got Kathy and Jen out hiking in the snow in the woods with students from K to what grade? Fourth?
Oh, we did.
It was fifth, right?
Well, we went up to 8th, but we only have students up to 4th.
Right.
So you have them.
Oh, no, fifth.
She's in 5th.
Yeah.
Every Monday, they volunteer their time after school to do this. They wanted to do it on a voluntary basis, so they take, how many students? 25 out in the woods. 25 come back each time.
Yeah, they do
right?
actually come back.
Okay, and that's on Mondays. This is our theater club that Mr. Little just started, York and Company. They meet on Fridays. We have board games, we have basketball, we have soccer. We have the older kids mentoring the younger kids in soccer now, so we have soccer twice a week. We have a math club for K to 2. I think that might be soccer club. Yeah. So those started in January and they'll still be going for a while. Some pictures of the baskets that were raffled off. I didn't win this year, but here they are.
Those were beautiful
They were
baskets.
beautiful.
Oh my God.
We had, these are our chefs. We got Ed Denal, we got Omar, and lots of pancakes flipping in the kitchen. Good use of the kitchen on a Sunday morning, and just a ton of people who came out. It was a great event again. So that's all I have for you. I really didn't have much to say about the cafeteria manager position, except to tell you that the same thing John said, that we took that posting down, and we, although we had really great candidates and we were in a position to be ready to hire, there were some other pieces that came into play that are having us do this, keep Joanne on. She agreed to be the cafeteria manager for the rest of this year, and then we can decide what we're doing moving forward in the summer for next year. That's all I have from my report, unless you have questions for me about.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Superintendent Franzoni?
Just to follow up on what Sarah said about the cafeteria manager position, what has happened over the last month, we've had 2 meetings with Corey Nicholas from North Island Public Schools, their food service manager, who's done a great job with their programs, about possibly exploring the collaboration with them for our food service. There are a lot of benefits to our school that could occur in the form of being involved with a larger collaborative agreement. Would allow for more choices for our students for breakfast and for lunch, including a significant increase in fresh fruits and vegetables that we could serve during that time. Corey's going to work together with Carrie Burnett and also Mary Jerome and Principal Barnes to look at our numbers over the next month or so to see what programs we would qualify for and determine what. There's two different plans you can go with. One where they would take over completely, and one where it would be a lesser agreement where they would just provide the food and we would pay them for that. So we're going to look at the numbers. I mean, the key thing is that it shouldn't have any impact on our financially because of reimbursement that we receive from the state and federal funding. It's just a matter of do we qualify for which program would be best for us to qualify for. So that was, the main impetus for us to wait on the cafeteria manager position because we weren't sure if this is something we would go with at all, or if we did decide to recommend this to school committee. Is this something that we just didn't feel it was fair to bring somebody in until we were deciding what our best plan of option was for next year for 1920 school year. So I think it's an exciting opportunity. I mean, there's several areas. I mentioned the improvement in the options. I know from working with Corey during my 5 years as a principal in North Adams, he's done a great job of improving the participation rates through offering just more quality ingredients and also the breakfast program. I know one of the things we talked about this morning in our meeting was that we have currently, I believe, 34% of our student population qualifies for a free lunch at Clarksburg, and for breakfast, for example, only about 10% of our kids eat breakfast. So, the worrisome thing is, are those other students getting a breakfast in the morning? They may be, but that was one of the things we really focused on during my time as a principal in my previous job, and increase those numbers so that the kids could have a good start to their day. There's many options for that, a lot of funding that we can use for that, a lot of grant funding we can go after for that. So, and that leads to a better, more productive, day for all of our children if we can look into those types of options. So we just feel like looking at this it's worthwhile for us to look at this. And we've asked Corey if he can come to our March school committee meeting to make a presentation on what our options would be, and if it's something that we want to go forward with for the next school year. We may decide not to, but I think it's worth looking into, and he's done a great job in North Adams. He's also providing lunches currently to Savoy, who's a member of our school union, and there's been a dramatic increase in their participation for lunch this year. They've gone from well below, well, they didn't have a program before, to almost having 90% of their kids eating lunch. So it's really been very successful. I've been there a few times they've had lunch, and the kids really love the fresh ingredients and the fact they have a choice to have a hot lunch there now. So there's a lot of, he's also partnered up with BART and their food service, and that's been very successful as well. So again, the key factor I think is that there wouldn't be any significant cost for us, and it actually could be just a wash in terms of the funding. We have to just crunch those numbers and make sure before we go forward with it. The other update I had was in regard to Monday. We have the second North Berkshire School Union Joint Committee meeting. It'll be at 6 o'clock at Gabriel Abbott School in Florida. School committee should have received that agenda, some information today. A couple of big things focusing on with this meeting will be the updates on the North Berkshire School Union Agreement that hasn't been updated since 2013. We're doing a lot of work since the last meeting on looking at the percentages being paid by each town, which again should be updated every year. So we're going to present a formula that's based solely on student population, which the committee will have to look at and decide to vote on. It'll impact Clarksburg's budget because currently we're paying about 34% of those union expenses, and this will potentially raise our expenses to 48 to 49% of that budget. So that's a big difference as opposed to where it is now. But I think there's a lot of pieces of the agreement we need to look at. I don't know if they're through it all on Monday, but I think it'd be good to have a subcommittee look at voting, for example. Do we need to have 3 voting members from each town? And especially if you look at it in terms of Clarksburg, if you have half of the students and you're paying half of the expenses, should the voting on that committee be based on population, or should each town have equal representation? So it's something we need to look into. And I also think in terms of, we've existed under the school union model for many years, but should we be weighing the benefits of the school union as opposed to some type of a regional agreement between our towns and the school union? Because there potentially are options and benefits of increased funding if we had a regional agreement as opposed to the school union agreement. Just throwing it out there, because given the governor's budget has a fund that is millions of dollars that will be put towards schools looking to regionalize, certainly would be something that we should at least give some attention to see if it's worth our while to, we're already engaged in the Clarksburg-Stanford regional agreement proposal, but, would it be in our best interest to consider how that would impact our North Berkshire School Union agreement as well. So I think at the very least, we need to look at that agreement because it's updated 6 years. So I think there'll be a good discussion about that. Business manager position is another big factor. I think on Monday night, Carrie Burnett has decided to accept a full-time position at North Adams Public Schools starting July 1st. So we're going to need to fulfill her position, which, as you know, has been 0.5 since last year with a shared services agreement with North Adams. I don't think the position is a 0.5 position. Carrie's done a great job of working hard to make it work in both districts, but it was clear that it wasn't fair to her, I don't think, and so North Adams has made theirs a full-time position, and she's accepted that. I think we need to look at making it a full-time position in North Berkshire as well. I think our office really gets by in the minimum amount of people that could possibly be working there. I think a lot of that, it creates a lot of work for our school offices, for our principals and assistants in each of our individual schools, and I think that'll be another discussion for us to have on Monday night. And one of the other pieces is I'm going to provide some information for my entry plan for some feedback I received from all the schools, and organize that so you can see some of the information that was learned from those interviews. So it should be a really important meeting on Monday night, and hopefully we'll have a good representation of our school committee at that session.
Contract negotiations?
Yes, we just received word from M. Dupre that the next session, we had to cancel a couple of them for while we were waiting for some budget information. So the next session is going to be on February 28th, which is a Thursday.
Was there a time with that?
I believe it's 4 o'clock, isn't it?
4? 3:30? 4:30?
4:30, okay.
Thank you. Hope that flies.
We discussed last time about, we have a bullying prevention policy that's in date and is utilized by the school. But there was a discussion about, after our review with a parent, about looking at forming a committee to consider if the policy is updated. So that's something that, we discussed briefly after the last meeting, and we're going to be pursuing that in the spring to try to get some teachers involved, school committee members involved, and just have some review to update that policy. I think we've had some discussion with the department. It looks like it's in good shape, but it's being followed. But are there some upgrades that we can do based on the educational opportunity we're providing to our students for their address their social emotional needs, and to make sure our school is safe as possible?
And it basically follows the Department of Ed.
It does. I mean, most schools, when the bullying policy was in place about 8 years ago, adopted policies, and they need to be reviewed periodically, and that's basically what we're going to look at here. Just do a periodic update on that, and to make sure, we just clean up some language in there, I think is the main thing. Interstate merger. We had obviously a good turnout for the January 22nd joint committee meeting with PCG. It was nice to have their input in person. I've been meeting with them every Thursday morning with a conference call to review the project. We had a good discussion this morning about their upcoming visits. They'll be here next week on the 14th and 15th of February On February 14th, they'll be interviewing town and school officials from Clarksburg, and also from some people from the North Berkshire Union Central Office. And then the 15th, they'll be primarily going to Stanford to do the same thing with individuals both in town and school on that date. Then they'll be returning on the February 25th to the 27th. February 25th will be our second joint town meeting being held in Stanford at 6:30 p.m. That'll be a chance, there'll be some more questions. The last session that they did was more information about how they're going to conduct the study. This one we have more opportunity for questions and answers with both towns to ask about any questions they may have about the feasibility study, because a lot more information then. They're also going to be here on the 26th and part of the 27th to conduct focus groups and interviews. They'll be looking to talk with students, teachers, staff members, community members, parents, and we're going to be sending out some information, first of all, about the posting on the 25th for the town meeting, and also the series of focus groups and interviews they're going to do on the 26th. So they were very good on their presentation on January 22nd, asking for participation from both towns, and we're hoping that we'll get a nice showing again on the 25th, 26th, and 27th. Things are progressing. We're also, they reached out to the Department of Education so we could have some discussion around licensure, because we know one of the proposals is requesting to look at a model that would have one of the buildings be like an early childhood center, pre-K through 2 or 3 in that range, and then the other school would be grades 3 or 4 up through grade 8. So if we did go with that model, that would certainly potentially involve teachers maybe working either in Stanford that are currently working in Clarksburg, or Clarksburg that are currently working in Stanford. So we need some guidance and input from the Department of Education about how they would handle licensure between the state, and from Vermont as well, if we're going to move actually Clarksburg teachers into Vermont. So that's one of the proposals that might not be the one we go with, or may not be going with any of them. So we have to see what their study shows, but that will be certainly a key component of the study, to get some information on where the state stands in regard to licensure and funding, and a lot of information that they're sifting through right now to provide us with some recommendations about this merger.
Thank you. The next item is the renovation committee. Mr. Norcross can't be here this evening, but Joe is, oh, there you are.
So, Bob Norcross sent me this, so I figured I'd just give everybody a copy of it, and we can all look at it together.
Can I get a couple on one question?
Actually, I have enough.
I want to ask about, even if we don't do a plan with Stanford, are we still going to have a pre-K? We're going to look at that?
Issue with space. Excuse me, so we're trying to find some space, because if we go with some kind of proposal with Stanford, that wouldn't be for at least another year or two, so. We need a pre-K program, obviously. But space is the issue.
Okay.
Want to leave this?
Sure.
Okay.
So, the first thing, he just kind of brought up the roof again, and whether or not we've heard anything more about that.
There've been letters going on, I know the teachers were sending letters out, there was a school committee, I know town officials have, we really haven't gotten much feedback, Carl?
I did contact DCAM.
Yes.
And so they sent me some direction as to who to contact, so myself and Jim Stakanis, who has experience with working with DCAM, so I provided him with the information, so he can make a call there also. I think it probably would be productive. We've got a couple together, maybe yourself, Ron, and Jim and myself, and got a conference call with DCAM.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think, times, certainly as Bob has on his agenda for the renovation discussion, I mean, the money is only part of this year's budget, so we certainly would need an answer pretty soon from the governor's office about are they gonna release this money to us?
And I think another point that and I see this on the agenda also, so the town is going to go forward with an attempt at a debt exclusion. So that being said, and what we're anticipating, should it be successful, would be $500,000 for the school. So we're hoping to also leverage that, so it'd almost be like matching funds for the roof money. And whether that would be a persuasive argument for them to release the money. So that's where we're headed on that.
I would think that'd be a critical vote, because, I mean, I would relate it to going for a mortgage, and where, you know, if you're going for a mortgage, they want to see you're putting some funds into it as well. So
Exactly.
if we're looking to locally fund some of our school projects, I would think that would make us more attractive to the state, to at least get some of their funding opportunities for our school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just speaking with Representative Barrett, I think it's very, very important. It is the governor, the state is looking for a buy-in, I think, a little bit, like you said. I think it's going to be very, very important. And it's like I said to you, it's a very, this coming May, it's very, very big for this town, so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so the second thing is the boilers, and we already answered the debt exclusion issue, so he wondered when we would rebid that project. Would that go in line with when we know whether or not the debt exclusion would pass, or would we do it before?
We, just so you know, this coming Wednesday, we have a select board meeting. I'm going to open that back up again. And then we put it on the table for a little while. But I again, and why some of you are here tonight, we have to make a decision on what we want to do. Do we want to go with the original plan, or do we want to rescope the project? I think, personally, it's advantageous to maybe rescope the project. We have X amount of dollars that are available to the school. We got $125,000.
Can you explain how you would rescope it?
I very simply, I'd go with replace a single boiler. That's me. I'm not in the business, but I'm just looking at what we have to work with. So I have to stay within that realm.
So you wouldn't remove all the asbestos this
I would leave
time?
there's two boilers there, correct? One's got asbestos and one doesn't?
We're waiting for the report from Derek Wissman. He said that we should have that in February. He told me
Yeah.
last week.
You know, that's not my forte. I have to just help the town operate within our budget, and I have X amount of dollars.
Well, if we don't do anything, we're gonna lose the 87, correct?
No, but it just hand ties the town to go after other green grants. So, you know, I'd rather get a definitive direction how we want to go here, so we can get this done. We know, like I said, we got 125K.
I just know that if you just do the one, you're not gonna do the other.
Well-
That's a big mistake, when you're only talking another $40,000 to do the job right. And if you only do half of it, it's gonna cost a heck of a lot more than $40,000 after.
I think it's more than 40,000. I could be wrong, but I'm looking closer to probably another $80,000 on top of that. So
Well, we didn't rebid it either.
no, let's rebid it. You know, but do you want to go back out the same scope? I have no problem. I'll do whatever you want to do, but I just want you to understand the town has X amount of dollars. So if we want to go with that project, and if the debt exclusion goes through, we got some money, okay? It's very dependent on that.
So we could put it back out and say, we really wanna do both boilers,
Yeah,
but bid one boiler.
correct,
That's easy.
yeah,
With a base bid and an alternate?
Yeah.
yeah.
And then if we do get the money, we do the.
Right,
do it all.
right. Well, that's a great way of doing it. Well,
And let me explain the green communities. So we need to spend what we've been awarded. Once that is complete and the money is expended, we have 4 more applications that can be applied for, and we will most likely get it. So if we do one boiler now, and I'll bid it 3 ways if you want it, I don't have a problem with that. Let's another hour with combis. But if we wanted to bid one boiler, and then two boilers, and then the piggyback, little boilers, I don't have a problem with that, and then evaluate which one makes the most sense for the school. I think if, we need to move quickly, because also this can be another, I hate the word negotiating, or leveraging I guess is the word I will use. Leveraging to also hopefully successfully get the DCAM to release the roof money. So I'd rather go sooner than not, and I'm waiting for what this committee wants me to do. I'll do what you want, but we have $87,000, and we're going to need a special town meeting to release the
37.
I think it's 38 and some change. So we will add that to it. So that brings our financeability to $125,000. That's where we're at. The town is going to need to use its reserves to pay for the snow roads overrun that we're going to run this year. So that's just the way it is. But I need some direction from you folks as to which way you want to go. If you want to go three ways, and then when we receive the bids, and then we can all sit down and put our heads together and what makes the most sense and what is affordable and doable this year.
Tommy, what do you think the best way to go?
I think.
Ideally, I like to do your plan. It's the right way,
No,
but-
I understand that. I definitely think we need to put this out to bid with
Yeah.
a construction date of
Yes.
summer.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we need to get it out, because
Yep.
you know yourself, you're gonna put it out, it's gotta be out a month.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, when we put out bids, I'm gonna ask for a 30-day back as
Right.
quick as possible.
So by the time you get it out, we're already looking at April, and these guys need to order the stuff,
Right.
or it's not gonna be here.
Right, because the key thing is we've moved all of our programs out for the summer, so
So that would
there's
be an
gonna be a
ideal time.
all of our kids are going up to Florida that wasn't gonna participate in the summer, so we've moved everything from the time that school's gonna end, for the summer. We've been working together with Clarksburg, Savoy, and Florida to make sure that we have summer programming, located in Florida this summer, so that we can do whatever work we have funding for and whatever we can, get in line for, last part of June, and July and August. So it's a window that'll go by quickly, but we have to have a plan in place soon, because we can't be planning it in June, it has to be planned
No.
before that, so.
Yeah.
And we're also going to need, and so what I would suspect is that in tandem with the debt exclusion, and I'm hopeful that we'll do that in probably sometime in April. I think that warrants a town meeting unto itself. And at that time, then we can use the 38,000 that is in a stabilization account for that other component for financing the boiler. So we could tackle those two problems at a special town meeting. And I think that I'm a little bit cautious about putting it at annual town meeting, because that puts us out almost into June. That I really am uncomfortable going out that far. It also gives us more time to negotiate with DCAM, and then we will have evidentiary evidence, obviously, that we are making a grand attempt to the best of our ability to address the issues that we find most critical. And heating and a roof are the two basics that we got to cover immediately, and I get it.
So that's the next step then.
So you guys tell me what you want to do, and I'll work on it next week.
I don't know if I have a vote, but I say let's put it out to bid.
Yeah.
In three different ways. One boiler, two boiler, and the piggyback boilers.
Well, the piggyback is basically two
Boilers.
So
Okay.
instead of
Yeah, just get it,
six
we have,
little ones.
yeah, so we'll have to get a scope on a single boiler.
Yeah, we'd like to replace the whole thing and have support if something breaks or one goes down, we need
A
to have
backup.
another boiler here because this is a school.
Oh, yeah.
We're not
Absolutely.
controlling our boilers, so.
I'm not arguing that point. I agree.
So you could do the two boiler and the piggyback boiler as one bid
Okay.
and a single
Single? Okay.
as another, if it's how you want to do it.
All right.
I don't think you'd have to do three.
Just to clarify, I'm a little confused by that, just, what this group wants to, I mean, to me, it's a town building. The select board is the one that put the bid out the first time. I mean, that to me is, this group is a group that has the expertise for that, to make that decision. This group is, to me, the education, in charge of the education in this building, but the town's in charge of the building.
That's why I'm looking at him.
So that's what I'm saying. Because we're just making a comment about, what we want to do. I think it's on that, it's in, the information I received, it's the town that owns the building, so that's where the information needs to come from for what we're looking to do for this project. You're the ones with the area of expertise, that's where it needs to come from, in my opinion.
Okay,
And from the information I've received from other towns, that's how it's handled, so.
Let me clarify my point, maybe I wasn't quite clear. I want this committee to tell me what to do. All right, this
This
is.
renovation committee.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
gotcha, okay.
Oh,
That's all.
fine, yeah.
No.
It's just like we're spinning our wheels.
No,
Back and forth and back and forth.
No, I'm not about spinning wheels. I like to get things done. So,
That's fine with
that's
me.
the way
Just
we're
wanna
gonna
get
go.
it done.
Tom's the expert here, so, well, you've got a lot more experience than I do. But what I'm saying is good. So we'll leave the original scope on the piggybacks and we'll go for a single. We'll have both proposals out there.
Just like what Laura was saying too, I just hope.
Yeah, I'm confused on the multiple bids. I put it out as one bid with
With,
a base bid and
okay,
one or two alternate bids.
Yeah.
all right,
Like we did already.
we can do that.
We did it with two, so
I would
if
do
we
it
just
with
have
one
three,
as the base bid, yeah.
Okay, so we
replace
can
one, replace two, and
That's just
then
me.
Yeah, okay, it's
And when
simple.
will that happen?
I'll start next week. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll move to get it, on Wednesday night, we'll get it to go and
Can we
we'll get it done quick. We'll get it done quick, so I'll have a quick 30-day turnaround on the bid, so that way we get something that makes sense, we can get everything ordered and done, okay? And get it scheduled for summer.
Can I ask another question? Oh, maybe it's on the, I'll wait.
So can I get a vote from this committee, please?
I don't think we need a vote, I think we know which way we wanna go.
That's even the vote, this is still part of the school committee meeting, so I mean, it's really just a renovation subcommittee. It's
I was just looking for a recommendation from you guys, how you guys wanna go, and we'll do it that way, it's simple as that,
Fair enough.
okay?
Okay, so, I guess the next thing, he kind of goes over costs here, but, boiler room lighting, I guess that's being looked into because someone offered, lights to, better light the boiler room, but, no one can get a hold of that person at this point, so that's.
Like I said, now I know you're gonna go to the select board meeting on Wednesday, I'll follow up with, Mr. Wisman, just to ask if his company, like, what their timeframe is. He told me last week that the report was imminent, so I just let him know that we really need that information.
Yeah, if you get something, just email it over to me or something.
Right.
So.
So that way we can have the exact information of what's needed to be addressed and how much it's gonna cost.
Yep.
Okay, so, we know about the volunteer effort over the last break. Chip and Scott replaced or repaired 2 toilets, a faucet, a sink with a faucet, a sink with a drain during Christmas vacation. We appreciate that very much. There's also a 25-gallon grease trap that needs to be replaced, but we have to check into the cost of actually doing that, and we may have to hire out to do that. That, I guess, would not be something that Chip could do. I guess the water heater has been ordered, right?
It's
here.
received.
It's here? Okay. So the school has to pay to have that put in.
Yes, and yes, the school can do that. Because that's a question here, can the school pay for the work?
How are we paying for it?
I have no idea.
And why are we paying for it?
Basically, Chip said he could do it, but he wants, I talked to him, he wants to be exempt from any liability. And he said he would do it. But that's why he didn't hook it up, because he didn't want to be liable if he doesn't have the insurance. So that's why he's saying you should hire somebody to do this.
That's understandable. Isn't this a town building?
We don't have any money for that. You giving?
You have money to put in a security system at town hall, yes?
We appropriated $8,000 for at-town meeting for town hall repairs.
And do you have a matching part for the school for a security system?
No, that was $500 is what the security system cost.
Do we know what the hookup would even cost?
No, so what we can do is this, because we can argue back and forth all night.
Much.
So let's just, we can reach out, is Berkshire Gas, get a price, reach out to Berkshire Gas, have Berkshire Gas, Tara, I'll email you, I'll have them come out, give us a price on installing.
We don't have Berkshire Gas here.
What is it, propane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably like Osterman or.
H.A. George?
H.A. George, I'll reach out to H.A. George. Okay.
I think it's important for these major jobs that we have, I think going back to what was said by Mr. Cheesebro, it's important that we look into having a company so we have follow-up and maintenance, and so we're gonna need to have those jobs done. That way I know we have, as we discussed, we have put a $25,000 capital expenditure amount in our budget, proposed budget for fiscal year 20. But, that's obviously still up for approval and discussion, so.
Who do we buy the propane from?
Is it Osterman?
I think it's H.A. George, but I'm not sure.
Well, that
H.A.
makes
George.
sense, whoever we're buying it from.
Yeah, to do it.
Yeah, could you just let me know for sure
Yeah.
before I reach out? Okay.
Now, I was walking around the building when we were doing the tour, and in those double doors that lead to the primary wing, I mean, that is positioned perfectly to become a new main entrance. And then the existing entrance, you have two sections that wall it off, heat it off, and you have another classroom. And one of the benefits of that is through the process that because of the well's location, within 100 feet of the well, what they call the well shield, DEP does not want any more impervious surfaces, any watertight, where water cannot get into the ground and recharge the well, within 100 feet. Well, that's an existing concrete slab. So if you were to enclose that and heat it, and that no longer be the front entrance, you have a set of double doors, and you have an overhang with an eave, and you put your security door and wall there, and then, and this is just an idea, I mean, I'm just trying to brainstorm here, and then move Tara and Mary's office into the next room over, which is a classroom, as I believe right now, and flip that and use their office space for a classroom that they would be right next to the entrance. There's already a door on the side there, so if you wanted to put something to the effect of either a security camera or a teller bulletproof type window, I don't know what that would look like, but I'm just offering that as a suggestion, is that within the footprint of the building, if you want to think of outside of the box a little bit, that offers a little bit more, quite a bit more space that would be usable for programming here in the school. And so I'm just bouncing that off of you. It's obviously going to have to be vetted and researched, but I think that it offers a relatively inexpensive option to increasing the usable heated square footage and another classroom. So just putting it out there. And if perchance we wanted to walk through the building after this meeting, and I'll point out what I'm talking about, I think that, and maybe it's not the best idea, I don't know, I'm searching also for trying to find solutions, that's kind of my job, so.
Yeah, I think it's, in terms of, sounds like it's worth looking into, I don't know, on our list of priorities right now, I would say for immediate,
Yeah.
I think we're certainly looking at the roof money, obviously, because that's got a time frame on it, and the
Clearly.
boiler, and,
Then we have other issues, security, elevator.
very ADA compliant, and we got definitely have some serious issues that we have to address. Of course, space in the building is always an issue, but, what can you accomplish in 2+ months, too, I think is what you have to look at, too, in terms of what our priority items are for this coming summer when the work needs to be done. So I don't think we want to bite off more than we can chew in a 2-month period. We have to also figure out what our funding looks like in terms of.
Yeah, that's very concerning.
Right. I mean, certainly when you talk about the debt exclusion, that would be that was going to be a worthwhile part of that funding for the school, with a couple other items that we just mentioned. Obviously, the whole lift elevator issue is a big concern too, from the primary floor down to the cafeteria level. So We have a lot of things to look at. I think we have to focus, for right now on the boiler and the roof, would be my
Yeah,
recommendation.
no, absolutely. As you know, too, I sent you both an email. I started that, me and Carl started dialogue with the library yesterday.
Yeah, great.
So, we have an upcoming meeting with the trustees on the 21st. So, we're trying to make a little headway there with them. So, we're trying.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to use, like you said, all aspects of this building to the
Absolutely,
most
absolutely.
efficient way. That's certainly part of the building
Yeah.
that we could use more efficiently, and look forward to the conversation on the 21st.
Yeah.
And we're also meeting next Wednesday, and thank you, Tara. It would appear we're going to have a full ADA commission, and so let me explain the process. So it doesn't mean that as soon as we get it formed that we're going to be able to apply for grants. That's not the way it works, and I'm going to explain it in as briefly as I can. So once the committee is organized, and obviously we're going to have an organizational meeting, chair, vice chair, et cetera, and then have a meeting scheduled. So then we're going to have to go out and self-evaluate all of the town facilities for what we perceive, that committee perceives to be the issues that need to be addressed to bring the town into an ADA compliant situation. Now, once we've done the self-evaluation, then the next step is to have a public hearing, to have more eyes and ears to allow us to consider things that maybe we missed, and that's entirely possible. No one's perfect. Once we have done that, then it's what you you're in the transition phase, because we would establish a timeline and try to put together the fiscal ramifications of each project, and then this is the project we want to do first, second, third, and so forth, and submit that. And then that brings us into the transition period. That's when we can go for the grants.
Did you say Bruce meeting on Wednesday? What did you say?
No, we're doing the appointments by the select board on Wednesday. Yes.
Is there any regulations on that timeline? I mean, how quickly can those things happen?
That I don't know. We're going to move this with as much alacrity as we possibly can. It's, we're a small town, and I'm impressed you're more successful than I am in getting people to serve on committees. So I thank you
I
again.
think there are a lot of parents who were, and staff members who.
And that's a good thing, and again, I extend my appreciation.
But I think Tara did a great job of getting the word out to her communications and bringing to the staff and families to get people involved, and it's good that people stepped up to be part of that.
That's good. Did you want to talk about this?
I did send
MMA. Go ahead. You can talk to it.
I did
important.
send this to John, Mary, Jerome, and Tara, but yours bounced back, Tara.
You
So,
don't have my email anymore.
but the Massachusetts Municipal Association is looking to have a statewide essay contest for 8th graders, promoting governmental service, municipal participation, and participation in the political system. I would strongly encourage that, and they can write essays on issues that are near and dear to their heart and to their future. I have a folder here for you, Tara, also. The winner does get to go to Boston for recognition. But I think that it's a couple of things, is that they'll be inclusive, that the students feel they have a voice. And, we have some very divisive politics in the nation as a whole, and which is disturbing. But I think that this is one way of promoting civic engagement, and maybe alerting the next generation to the potential of changing their corner of the world. And so I would offer, and I've talked with Ron about this, if you do need us as community leaders to talk to the students and engage them and encourage them, we certainly stand ready to do so. And that's that.
I just forwarded to you. It was your last name was spelled
wrong. The eyes are the first thing to go.
There was an email.
My apologies.
Oh,
Oh, no.
It's there now.
All right.
anything else you'd like to add on the?
No, I think we touched on everything. Just to confirm on the last point about the PA system, we're waiting on the asbestos report still, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I might add, since Pat brought it up on the security system, 4 cameras, computer operated, so at a console you have 4 windows, real time. You have a 300-foot Wi-Fi capacity, so if you were to have, and I'm thinking the building is probably about 300 feet, but I know masonry buildings are very hard to get Wi-Fi through. I understand that. But I'm thinking, and it's a pretty good, easy install. If you bought 2 of them and then had them, and they can be hardwired too, so you may not need 2 systems, but more cameras, and I understand that. But for basically, you could get 8 views for $1,000, and like I said, the install is incredibly easy. And I can provide you folks with that product information if you're interested.
Like you said, the key thing is, I think, deciding if there's a chance to have some kind of structure change in the building, you don't necessarily want to do the security until you have that in
Well, they
mind,
would be
so that
mobile. I mean, if you ultimately decided they needed to be in a different location, you can move them, and they can be Wi-Fi. The only concern I would have is that if you had it in the central office, is it going to connect to one that's in the rear of the building? That was my only concern on that. So I guess my thoughts were that if you had 4 in that section of the building and 4 in this section of the building, and then you'd have 2 consoles, or you could run a hard wire. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's part of what we're proposing, but
Yeah.
we're also proposing access control system
Yeah, okay.
with doors and something that they can push in the front office and lock down.
Yep.
That's all, but cameras are part of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the proposal that we got from Trooper Canada also had a recommendation to have that type of situation where you have somebody that comes into an area that's still secured outside the building, but the office has the ability to communicate with them before anybody's allowed entrance into the building too. And that'll be part of that too, obviously, with either a camera, because I know that from my previous school, we always had, when somebody came in, they were on film right away, so that we have.
And it has a recording capacity also.
Yeah, so that would be part of this. I mean, I'm just saying, but some of the things that were discussed tonight about potentially looking at changes in entrance and other areas, we want to make sure we have that in place, I would think. Well, we want to have the system in place earlier, we want to make sure we have our building in place before we do that. I think it'd be wise to look into that first before we install the security, just to avoid having to do it twice.
Tom?
Yeah, my question is, I heard John say that you guys put into your 2020 budget a $25,000 for whatever maintenance you may need. And does the 2020, is it July 1?
Yes.
January 1, July 1?
July 1.
What has the town planning on putting in their budget to maintain this school?
It's not in our budget.
Because we got capital renewal that needs to be taken care of here. This is all of our property. And it's getting run down.
Well, no, I understand that, but that's in their budget. It still comes from town funds. But that goes in
I
their budget.
understand that. But that's the thing, we had conversation on what the school and the school committee is supposed to fund and what the town is supposed to fund. Is the town in charge of the infrastructure and the building shell, and the school in charge for teaching? I have a problem and I haven't got an answer yet, and I've been talking about this for about a year now.
I don't have an answer for you yet.
Well, that's where I've sent emails to everybody, and there was a case actually solved in North Carolina. Exact same situation that we're in right now. And it ended up coming to just an argument, basically, about who is gonna be responsible for what. So what they ended up doing was just sitting down and hashing it out. And it was gonna be a capital account, well, what's gonna be contributed to that? And
Yeah, whether
It
it's a
ended up
capital
being-
account that the school has control of, or the capital account that the town has control of, Something's gotta be made up.
But typically,
We
the
need-
building's taken care of by the town. It's part of the town,
Town, yeah.
just like the town hall, just like
their
the senior
And the
center.
school is running a business for the town.
But I can also,
They're paying for the teachers.
I can
and
also
all.
see there is no money. So what do?
We gotta put it in, because what's gonna happen? Oh, we don't have enough money this year.
I know that.
Oh, we don't have enough money next year. Oh, we didn't put it in. And then something else
I
emerged.
understand it.
I understand the town has no money, and that's why we're gonna be doing this vote. But we need to show that before this vote is, hey, this is the stuff we have on, and we're gonna have to keep putting off and putting off. If we don't write it down, and we don't have a 5-year plan like we put together, our committee, with, you know, the boilers, the roof, the security system, the elevator, the bathroom we need, the PA system, this gets put into a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan, and when the money's there, you work away at your plan.
So actually, the $38,000 is money the town put away for the school years ago. And in addition, the debt exclusion is money coming from the town for the benefit of the school and the town.
We're the dump is winding down, so there's gonna be money there.
No, there isn't, because the thing is, that is a debt exclusion.
Right.
Once it goes away, so does the taxing authority that goes with it. So
I understand that, but that could be brought up when we go for
Well,
this exclusion. to
absolutely,
Say, hey,
yes, absolutely.
we have this, should we just roll it into the
Well, how-
town, the
how you
budget,
would-
the school budget? I mean, like I said, we have no plan right now, we need a plan.
So
Can't keep going and going.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Right, so
There's
the
something has to be put in place.
$500,000, or the, excuse me, the $1 million debt exclusion, 500 for each, the town and the school. So if we were not considering the landfill, which the capping was a 30-year loan, and that's about $24,000 per year, which equates to approximately 23 cents on the tax rate. So the net effect of how that will work is that that debt will go away, so the tax rate will go down, but our taxing authority does not go up, just so you know that.
No, I
So
understand.
now, looking at the $1 million loan, normally it would be in, like I said, $1.78 in that neighborhood, less what the tax rate is gonna go down from the landfill closure loan being paid of 23 cents. We're figuring it's gonna be in the neighborhood, the $1 million 5-year loan is going to be a $1.53 on the tax rate. Now, understand, and I want to be really clear, I want to spend the money prudently and visibly where the people can actually see results. And I'm a little bit, you know, it has to be in infrastructure that people can see and touch and appreciate. And if they're satisfied, there is nothing to say that, you know, we couldn't try this again if the people are receptive to that. So we're doing what we can. And in addition to that, the grant that is paying for most of, not all of the boiler, is a grant that I wrote, and the school is getting the lion's share of the $140,000 grant. So out of the $141,000 grant, 87 is going to the school. I mean, we have energy upgrades that we need to do in town because we are committing ourselves to reducing our carbon footprint, but
How much
also.
went to the school the year before? How much
Excuse me?
went to the school the year before that? How much went to the school before that?
We're in this position because there was never a capital fund to fix the school.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
We gotta fix this. And I think with the people that voted for the new school and the people, even a bunch of them that didn't, they don't want the school to go away.
I agree.
And we wanna fix it up.
Yeah, and I do.
You live here, this is our town, this
I
is our
came
school.
through the school system, so did my kids.
But we
If-
can all agree that doesn't keep this school functioning. We need to have a plan,
Mhm.
and I hear, you know, we're gonna give 500,000 for the town, 500,000 for the school. We are all part of this town,
Mhm.
and I have to say, as someone who's sitting here, hearing that 500,000 goes to the school, that's very open-ended.
Well, and that's
Gives me a
what
lot
we're-
of questions of what does that mean, and will we see it?
Right,
What will it do?
so we're
Because
going,
will something else come up, and that 500,000 will be needed for something else, and again,
If
there
you-
is no money for
now
the
you,
boiler.
if you do a debt exclusion, it cannot be spent on operations, that's against the law. It has to be capital project. And I think it behooves us to put our heads together and you give me a list of projects that you need to do. And I'm not against lumping it as a $500,000 project all at once. I'm not against that. I'm not saying $100,000 a year. I'm saying do what you need to do. I'm not here to tell you what project you need to do. You're running the building, you know what you need, I don't. I mean, I know what my town needs. I mean, my roads are falling apart, my water lines
We
are
are
falling
your
apart.
town. This is your town. You're
Our
sitting
roads
in your
are falling
town,
apart too, we
Carl.
understand.
Yes, I understand
And when
that,
you say
but-
that, people, I'm a taxpayer.
Exactly.
I'm your neighbor.
Yep.
And I'm paying money. And you say that people want something, their money to go to something that they can feel and touch. I know I bump all the way to school, my short commute, but I can touch this, and I want my kids to touch things that aren't asbestos tile, and I want my
Well,
kids
that's what
to
I'm
feel
saying. So if
heat
you-
when they're in the building.
So if you want-
this is part of it.
So-
Just like the security of the town hall. I understand what you're saying, but what Cindy Brule was saying makes total sense. You said you want us to be together, but you talk about the town, everything else, and this building.
When I
It should
said
be
touching it,
everything.
it's your
You keep
physical
us no,
structure
and this is
what
how
I'm
it came
looking
across a
to
year
find.
ago. This is how it came across a year ago, and why everything happened the way it did is because when time came, whether you meant it or not, or whether anybody meant it or not, the verbiage that came out of people's mouth made it seem so separate that people came against each other and thought that school was stealing from the town. And how dare we take from the town
No.
instead of the town working to be happy about the school that's here. And it might not be anyone's intention, but the way it's being said, the way it's being presented to our taxpayers, to our town, makes it seem like we're a separate entity and we want to take from them.
There is.
And that's just how I feel. I understand
Right,
what you're
so
trying to
maybe-
say. We have to
maybe
think of
you're
a plan, and we have to think of a
misunderstanding
way to present it in a
how
way
the
doesn't
budget-
sound like two separate entities.
How the budget is developed, and it is a separate budget, so that's what I'm referring to.
So we need the plan
Right.
where we have the capital fund that
And-
doesn't make this seem so like a separate
And
entity.
that's what the debt exclusion is for. And touching it is new floors, or whatever whatever you guys decide you need. So that you can touch. It has to be a capital project. So if I said something that is mistaken, it has to be in the building. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It can't be for operation.
I'm just saying, I think what Kim's trying to say is that when we talk, and I don't mean to interrupt anyone.
No, go ahead.
I just think
Go
it's
ahead.
important that, I come from a standpoint of my background as coaching, and when somebody's saying you, I always want we should be saying we. And I think that's the big problem that I see in my short period of time working with this town, is that that's the kind of verbiage that's being said in a select board meeting by some people. That's what it's being said in other different meetings I've gone to a finance committee meeting a couple weeks ago. It makes it sound like exactly what is being said. And that's, I think that's a big thing that we have to do as leaders, to get over that, to say it's we. Because this is part of, like, you keep saying it's you, what you want, it's what we want to do together, this group together.
more
as a group
related to
together.
the budget.
I know you don't mean, I'm just saying
You know,
that would be go a
The town
long
side of the
way
budget, the
towards
school side of the
getting us
budget.
past
That's
this.
how it's always been, and
I know,
I apologize.
Yeah, well, we got a $4 million budget, right, and $2.4 million last year was in the school, so I mean, that's part of this, that's a big part of the budget.
Yes, it is.
I just did it too, you can't do it, our budget, right, so that's what we need to do.
That's true. You're right. I guess I'm lucky. I moved here. So, I don't owe anybody any allegiances, but I like to do things right. So I've seen a lot of, I sit back because I have to listen and learn, and I look at things. Do I like the way things are? Absolutely not, because I see a lot of division, and it's this. I'm all about trying to work to make things better. Now, I'm only one person, but I try hard every day for this town. I really do. I stick my neck out to try to collaborate with different people and make sure things get done. Because I can see where things don't get done because they're too busy pointing fingers all the time. I'm not about that. You know what? We got to get a hot water heater hooked up. Let's get it done. We need boilers done. Let's get them done. We'll find a way to do it. Today, just for an example, town hall, they struggle with computers. No, order 2 new computers. We spend more time trying to put Band-Aids on things instead of doing things right. So, all I can promise you is this. As long as I'm around, we're going to do things right. And it may take a little time sometimes, but we'll get there, okay? So, and I agree with you. It's not us, it's all of us together. We need to work together. This is a small town and it's struggling, but you can get through anything if you work together. And that's as simple as can be, you know? And that's the message I have for everybody. You need to work together, no matter what. Because it doesn't matter if there's a school budget or a town budget, it's one budget. And the taxpayers contribute to that budget, okay? I know the roads aren't great, all right?
Horrible.
Well, it is what it is. But
We're not alone.
I've often said, this is the crown jewel of this community. Without this school, you have nothing. It's a draw. It's a huge draw. It brings value to your property. You got to invest. You know, shame on whatever happened before, that there was nothing in place to invest in the school, and it got to the point where it needed to be repaired, and everybody maybe was counting on that vote to go through, and it didn't go through, and guess what? You got what we got today, so we got to figure out a way. So we'll do. You can count on me. I'm going to constantly work to make it better for you, and you know. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
is there a line item to have?
No,
on
but
capital
we've got
account?
to, and what I'll do is what Mark Denault and Jim in the finance committee, we need to put a line item
Yeah,
in
because
there
we don't
for
want to go
capital
back to the
improvements.
town in a couple of years.
Right,
for
you've
those
got it,
things.
you've got to have it, you've got to have it, I don't care what, any town, you need you need a line item for capital improvement. And you got to figure out a minimum that you can contribute to it every year. Whatever it is, you've got to contribute to it, and again, so I hear you, believe me, I do, I hear your frustration, and I get frustrated, but we'll get there, we will get there.
So when the governor released his budget, which is called House 1, and I saw the numbers immediately, after I picked my chin up off of the ground, it's really concerning. And the increase is 0.35% of 1%. I mean, it's not even 1% increase in the budget. It's really bad. And it's that way pretty much unless you're in Pittsfield. They got 3.7 million more. We got $3,000 more in Chapter 70 school aid. North Adams, which is 8 times our size, got $10,000 more. There is something seriously wrong with that budget proposal. And
Yeah, when you look at it, I mean, the governor's budget is increasing the charter by $106 million. That's one that sticks out to me, obviously. I mean, you look at the local funding that's out of that, I mean, you have articles saying that Pittsfield's getting 3.7 million, good for them, but we're getting like 3,000.
but at the expense of everybody else.
It isn't, the formula, the system's broken.
Right, so one of the key things I know has been mentioned is, like we talked about earlier before a lot of you arrived, is the teachers have our proposal together about, getting in touch with our local representatives
Absolutely.
to advocate for our rural towns to
Yes.
have a better
Yeah,
formula
all
to be
about it.
funded. One of the things I was just saying earlier was that the Mohawk, there's a rural schools coalition, and the Mohawk superintendent is the leader of that, and they're advocating for a $400 per pupil expense for, requirement for rural schools. And because it's based on population, that wouldn't be even close to $106 million, first of all. But it'd be a money that would help to fund our schools so we could address some of these types of issues we're talking about.
It'd be a sizable
tonight.
boost.
So it's certainly important that we know Senator Hines, Representative Barrett have been advocating for us, but that would be something that we, I think, all need to make sure we're reaching out to them to talk about, how it's so important this year to increase the funding to our rural schools and communities, because under the current plan, it's not gonna happen, so.
And just so you know, that Clarksburg's not a normal community. 53% of the town is owned by the Commonwealth. And we did a study about 6 years ago that if that had been in private hands, it would be $264,000 in tax revenue. They're proposing giving us $18,000. When I was on the finance committee 18 years ago, it was $28,000. So, and they bought more land in the intervening 18 years. So they bought more of our community, and they've given less to us as a payment in lieu of taxes. It's called pilot. Now, I am a member of the Transportation Advisory Committee. I'm on MMA Public Policy Advocating and Lobbying in Boston for more dollars. And in addition to that, You know, I brought up in the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission that if you're not going to give us more money for a pilot, then you need to give us a carbon sequestration payment, because we are cleaning all of the metropolitan Boston's air. And they have the economic growth, and they have the population growth, and they have the housing growth. And like, I'll give you a good example on Chapter 90 road funding, all right? So we get $75,000 a year to fix our roads, and that's it. And it's $1 million a mile for a road, just so you know. So it's based upon 3 criteria: population, employment, and road miles. Well, guess what? Boston increased its population over 30,000 last year. We've been losing 1% per year for quite some time. So they have more people, and those people need housing. They get subdivisions, they get more roads. They're getting more jobs. And so you can see this big, giant vacuum cleaner sucking money out of Western Massachusetts, and it's going to the other side of the state, and it's inherently unfair. And I'm doing all I can, but I will tell you right now, everybody needs to work together, and we need to lobby our government, and not just our representatives. We need to be inclusive with the lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President of the Senate. And you know, I've written a lot of letters, and I've already started on this budget. And I've already had a discussion with Beth Ann Steiner, who is Adam Hines'. As soon as I saw that, I was on the phone with her in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Carl. Go, Tara?
I'm sorry, can I just go back to Kim's point about the language we use? And I think it's really telling, and I hadn't thought about it as deeply as you explained. And I think it's critical that we think about this going into May. Because if we're asking people to vote for something, and then we're presenting it like, well, this much money is going to go to the school, and this much money is going to go to the town.
Yep.
We've done it again. So I think we have to really be thoughtful about how we're presenting this to taxpayers.
Yep.
And what the language is that we're using when we say, we're going for a debt exclusion, this is what we're gonna do with the money.
Yeah.
And not make it sound, I mean, I know the intention is good in
Be
terms
fair.
of
I
trying
wanna
to
be
say,
fair.
we wanna give this much money to the school. But I think we have to be careful about how we're saying it, and we have to start saying, we're going to be improving our facilities and our roads.
I think the
With
ultimate
this money.
question that needs to be answered by the voters is, what do you want your town to look like?
Yes.
You know, and not just as a community, and not just as a state, but as a nation. The generation that came before us, they left us a good infrastructure. In the 50s and 60s, they did things. The interstate highway system, that's when this school was built. And we have done nothing but run it into the ground, and you can't continue to do that. You can't operate a government and not pay taxes.
Is there a plan for how this information is going to get out to the towns?
We plan on having informational sessions, and so I would appreciate a list of capital
Yeah, I'm gonna have
projects that you want to accomplish here.
April?
Yeah.
So that's what we're planning on doing. I would think that a week or two before our special town meeting.
When's the special town meeting?
We're working on setting that date,
Okay.
but I think that it would behoove us to do a PowerPoint and invite the public that these are the issues that we would like to address with this money.
Yeah, right, and if you include our facilities and
Yeah.
our roads, and under facilities, the schools under
it's very
that
broad, yeah.
umbrella of
Absolutely.
facility, town
Yeah.
facilities.
That's a good way of putting it too. You don't, yeah.
Believe me, you guys, we're not beating on you guys.
No,
We know
I
you're here to help you
understand
guys
that,
do
I
it too.
understand that.
And like I said, we're all in this together, and we're looking out for the
Yeah.
rest of the town. I'd like to see my roads better, but I'd like to see my.
We're everywhere like
I'd like
that,
to see
yeah.
my building, this building be
Absolutely,
better.
I hear you.
Stay in the passing lane, going through
As a
Adams.
neutral person, when you have that meeting, I do not have a problem, I'm sure Bob wouldn't, to represent the deficiencies in the school that need to be taken care of.
Yeah, yeah. Just so you know,
I could say, hey, you know, I'm an outside person, if this is our building to the people of the town, we need to take care of it.
right.
And I can list our plan, or Bob can, and, I mean, that's why us guys all got together.
Yeah,
That's why it's your focus going forward, the vote's gonna be what, in May? Is that when the
Yeah.
vote's
We're
gonna be?
not
So
gonna
we
just
next, I
leave
think our
you guys
next,
hanging dry, we wanna help.
yeah, right, absolutely.
I would
let's say our next meeting should be in March, is
Just-
prioritizing what, projects are gonna be.
Yeah, I think you need to
included in that
identify.
Plan, so we can
Yeah.
say, these are the 4 or 5 things that we need to fix in the building as a priority that along with whatever else is gonna be part of that debt exclusion. So like Sarah said, we're showing, here's a whole list of projects that are gonna be improving in the school, the town, and this is what the whole proposal is together as one, because they're all town buildings,
Yeah.
and they're all town projects.
And if we work together on a PowerPoint, I mean, I think that the pictures and the monologue, for lack of a better word, that can come to mind, we need to make a presentation that these are the existing conditions, these are the things that we would like to address. And it's that simple, and answer their questions to the best of our ability.
Just so you know, myself and Carl have been working hard to create other sources of income for the town. Now, we have an opportunity with a cannabis grower to come into town, retail. So, you know, retail can bring a couple $100,000 in tax dollars to this town. We're also looking at behind the DPW building, just to log some of that out and put a solar array in there. So these are things that we're trying to do to increase the income to this town. So, you know, a lot of times it doesn't show, but we're going through those meetings and we're doing those things.
Absolutely.
And that's because, let's face it, there's not a lot of growth in Clarksburg.
Actually, we had negative growth.
Right. So we're trying to create that avenue, so we have the cash flow to do things and help support different things. So those are the things we're doing. So we have to think outside the box. So we're doing that. You know, we're so used to doing things a certain way, you know, and they just don't work. You got to change.
Well,
You know.
change.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to change with the times, and, you know, unfortunately,
Yeah.
a lot of the Berkshire communities are struggling just to stay afloat, and we're not alone in this.
No, that's what we have to get smarter.
Some little old lady told me this when I first got into politics. She goes, "Mr. Boucher, when you get lemons, you make lemonade." And she always thought, I always remember that. So it's true.
So I want to thank everyone for coming this evening, selectmen coming, and faculty, staff, community members, renovation committee, everybody. Thank you very much. Adjourn the meeting at 7:52 p.m.
Those meetings are out longer now.
Yes.
6:52.